Hi folks, Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome back to the channel. I just want to let you know I'll be on the radio again tonight, the Altar View broadcast, and I'll try to get the link out to you. Still waiting for the video from the Vinnie Eastwood show to be up. I think once that goes up, you'll enjoy watching that video, and it'll be very, very helpful to you. And not only that, it's pretty doggone enjoyable as well. And today I wanted to come to you and bring you something that was brought to my attention. It came to my mind last night during the talk with Vinny. And I have to say, to my own shame, that I really didn't know much about Bill Cooper. And I realized I might not be the only one that doesn't know much about Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper is probably the grandfather, the pioneer of the whole movement that we're all in, alternative media, truther movement, conspiracy movement, if you will. Bill Cooper, for better or worse, hero, fiend, or in between, really was the grandfather of it all. He was the guy that started it all. He propagated it over a great deal over shortwave radio, and there's no shortage of information about Bill Cooper, and some of it is very positive, some of it's very negative. He was born in 1943. He died in 2001, and he was, it says, an American conspiracy theorist. To be truthful, he probably was the American conspiracy theorist. And he's best known for his book, Behold a Pale Horse, which I just ordered. So I definitely want to read that and have that on my bookshelf, because we really should pay homage to the people that were before us and the people that laid the groundwork, really the giants whose shoulders that we stand on currently as people in this genre. And he was a radio guy, as I said. Behold a Pale Horse. He was the first one to start talking about, or one of the very first ones to start talking about the Illuminati, about the Bilderbergers, about, multinational global conspiracies. He's the one that really first started tying in ETs. Pardon me. He talked a lot about HIV and AIDS. And one of the criticisms of him is that he inspired the militia movement, and we're going to take a look at all this and kind of see what's truth and what is unbalance on the pro side and unbalance on the con side. And he was killed in a shootout. Some say he was assassinated, some say that he got what he deserved with police in his right near his Arizona home. He was a veteran. He served in the United States Navy. He did write the book Behold a Pale Horse, as I've talked to you about. He thought that he taught that AIDS was a result of a conspiracy to decrease populations. It was a geoengineered virus, and that they had the cure to it before they ever launched it. And he started the ball rolling in the late 80s, 1988 or so, it says here, about the whole alien involvement within the governmental spheres of influence. Now, he wasn't without his critics. The folks at UFO Magazine didn't like him. A lot of other people did like him and say that he did bring forth some good information. He talked about President Eisenhower negotiating with extraterrestrials in 1954. He believed that there's a lot of influence that still went throughout our government and still does today. He talked about the usual suspects, the Bilderbergers, the Knights of Columbus, the Masons, the Skull and Bones. And he really started the whole talk about the New World Order, and he all but coined the term sheeple. Sheeple is a Bill Cooper-ism, although he may not have coined it himself. He's the one that certainly popularized the term. And he did a lot of talk about the Kennedy assassination, and just to show how things come full circle, Cooper having died in 2001, and I'm just seeing now these things about, the Kennedy assassination, and it was the driver that killed President Kennedy. And Cooper asserted this. And to make it even more interesting, Bill Cooper asserted that William Greer, who was driving the limousine, used a gas pressure device developed by aliens to shoot the president in the driver's seat. If you do watch the film, you'll see that he looks back twice, and once it even looks like he's pointing something backwards towards the president. And it's very interesting. It's a very compelling video, and it's certainly worth your thought. But regardless of what you think about it, he certainly did start and encourage and continue a lot of discussion and a lot of investigation into the Kennedy assassination. He also pretty much predicted 9/11 about a month before 9/11. Now, there was talk about that something might be imminent through a lot of different sources, but I mean, Cooper went on the air and said, look, it's going to happen. It's going to happen soon, and they're going to blame it on Osama bin Laden. And the two people that I really know saying things that were uncannily accurate prior to 9/11, the only one I'd actually known before was Patrick J. Buchanan. Yes, that Pat Buchanan. He warned, I believe he even said that some terrorists are going to fly planes into buildings and cause tremendous, horrific acts. And then Cooper saying that something was going to happen. It was going to be blamed on Osama bin Laden. And of course, he was correct about that. Now, there's a lot of talk about his death and how it happened. If you do not believe that Bill Cooper, if you think Bill Cooper was Fiend, then you believe he was a tax dodging guy that finally got caught up to by the United States Marshal Service, and that they went out there to grab him, and he pulled a gun on him and killed him. He shot an officer, and then the officers killed him. Of course, if you look at the pro Bill Cooper side, you do get some very different factoids, if you will. He was an officer. He worked for the Office of Naval Security and Intelligence. He does have several medals for his leadership and heroism, including the 2 with the V for valor from his service in Vietnam. Cooper claimed to see information implicating alien involvement in government activities. His critics say he was just a low-level clerk. He never would have seen such thing. His proponents say, no, he did serve on the intelligence briefing team for the Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet. I say that he was the petty officer of the watch and designated KL-47 Spec Cat operator and the CINCPAC Fleet Command Center at Makalapa, Hawaii, where he held a top-secret QSI security clearance. So you have to think that with all of the derogatory things put out about Cooper and with all of his opponents, that if this was patently untrue, it would have been shown to be patently untrue by facts and not by opinions. It's one thing to say, oh, he was just a low-level clerk, there's no way he knew anything. It's another thing to say that he served on the intelligence briefing team for the CIC of the PAC fleet, that he was petty officer of the watch, he did have top secrets, QSI security clearance. It's one thing to say, but he was just low level. It's another thing to show, apparently, data that says that he was, in fact, a person that could theoretically have had access to that certain type of protected information. He did reach the rank of first-class petty officer, an E6 after only 8 years of naval service. That's pretty good. It says here a difficult task in any branch of the United States military. I was a staff sergeant E5 after 6 years in the U.S. Air Force, but I got promoted below the zone and passed my test the first time. So it's not impossible to become an E6 after 8 years, but that's doing pretty good. The Navy does tend to promote more quickly than the Air Force. So it wasn't that he was a super duper trooper, but he certainly was a guy that was at least doing his job, and may have been above, ahead of the power curve, at least to some degree. Now, he did work with photography. He was a leader in education and in software. He was on shortwave radio across the country. Of course, he wrote the book, did a lot of lecturing, helped a lot of people. He helped 700 low-power FM stations get equipped and get on the air, which is great work, and he deserves to be lauded for that. And one of the things that he did that really, really spoke to me, and one of the things he did that was really interesting to me, and before we do that, let's take a look real quickly. They talk about, this is his the street where he lived and where he was gunned down, or where he met his fate, depending on how you look at it. I believe this was his house here. I don't think the big house was his. I believe this was his house. And if you see down here, it's a cul-de-sac. And, they knew where this guy lived, and if he really was a fugitive, they would have just went and got him. But he was being hounded and harassed by the IRS. He was successfully arguing in court that they didn't have jurisdiction, they didn't have the proof of the claims that they were leveling against him. So to say that he was a fugitive on the run, evading the authorities, is simply inaccurate, because he was in court fighting the authorities and winning. And it looked like he was maybe going to get off and be freed of the charges. But at any rate, you can see where he lived here. And he lived, I don't know, one of these places was his house, okay? And I believe it was down in here or down in here, one of the two. I can't get the straight scoop, but he's kind of a community leader. People kind of looked up to him. He kind of, was on the neighborhood watch, if you will. And it was either down here or down here. There was people creating a ruckus, making noise. And he thought, oh, there's some people drinking or some people carrying on. Because you can see it's a pretty, it's a pretty unpopulated place, right? So it would be a place for kids to go out and drink or something of that nature. So Cooper comes down and starts walking down to see what's going on. Sees who it is, and according to the people that believe that Cooper was set up, being in naval intelligence as he was, he immediately recognizes these are plainclothes officers in unmarked vehicles, and he realizes that he's in a situation where he's being set up. So he turns around and he starts to go back up, and then no one really knows what happened. Cooper was shot and killed. This entire area was cordoned off for many, many hours. Some say as many as 15 hours. They didn't bring an ambulance to come get him. They didn't give him any access to any medical care. And most sources say he laid there for 15 hours. They didn't allow any press to come in. They didn't allow, they in fact even waved away, I was told, a news helicopter. So at the very least, there were some very, very curious goings-on surrounding the death of Bill Cooper. But the thing that I know most about Bill Cooper, and the thing that gave me his respect, and I know we have a lot of that I gave him my respect. Of course, he was gone from the scene before I ever came on this scene. But I heard and this was on Y2K, and I wasn't even in this genre in Y2K. I was still really in the Christian preaching business. And Alex Jones went on the air on the eve of Y2K, so December 31st, 1999, right? And Alex Jones is on the air talking about people are rioting. Many of you have heard that. Look up that video. Alex Jones, Y2K, Bill Cooper talks about Alex Jones, Y2K. Jones was doing everything he could to facilitate and create a huge riot, and it's amazing that he didn't. It was like War of the Worlds. the old Orson Welles, talking about aliens so much that it made people actually think there were aliens, arm themselves, and there were even firearms discharged. So, and Cooper went on the air and called out Alex Jones and said, that is irresponsible, that is fear-mongering, that should not happen. And when I heard Cooper do that, I was really given to believe that he was a person of honor and a person that, at least in that regard, was able to say, hey, that's not right and it ought not to be done. And I certainly agree with him on that. And, to this day, Jones is still stirring up pots, really for no other reason than to just stir up a pot. So I was very, very thankful and I was impressed with what Cooper took the air and said about that situation. You can't help but be impressed about a man who's a pioneer in his field. You can't help but be impressed with a man that served his country. You can't help but be impressed with a man that is not afraid to ask the tough questions, and with a man that is not afraid to spend his own dinero to do what he can to get a message that he believes in spread to as many people as possible. So, Bill Cooper, hero, fiend, in between. Well, I certainly don't believe he's a fiend. And I certainly believe that he could be a hero, and he certainly has heroic qualities to me for blazing this trail. So like the rest of us, he probably wasn't a hero. He made some mistakes, said some things he wished he hadn't have said, done some things he wished he hadn't have done. Probably wasn't 100% accurate on all of his thoughts. But the guy was definitely a prophet of sorts. A guy was definitely able to read the tea leaves. The guy definitely helped, and he definitely pioneered something that is flourishing today, and the world is better for it. I think without any fear of contradiction, we can say that the world is a better place today because Bill Cooper was once part of it. And because Bill Cooper did something about it. He didn't just sit there and curse the darkness. He did indeed light a candle. And the world is a different place today because Bill Cooper was in it, and Bill Cooper left a legacy that has lasted beyond him. And at the end of the day, that's all that any of us who are in this genre could ever hope to accomplish. So this is, I guess, my ode to Bill Cooper, my show of respect to Bill Cooper, and my efforts to help those that were like me until last night, unaware of the story of Bill Cooper, to give you what I've hoped has been somewhat of an objective, but yet, of course, sharing my opinion at the same time on Bill Cooper. Hero, fiend, in between. Well, now you have what I think is a good amount of impartial and objective information, and now you can decide for yourself. Is he hero? Is he fiend? Is he in between? I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. As always, helping you unwind your mind. We'll be on the radio later today. We'll be back on with another teaching today. I'm telling you, pedal to the metal, wall to wall, treetop tall. And I'm going to put this in all of my videos. I'm going to put a little blurb down there that I've written that you can go copy and paste, post it to your social media, and help us grow this channel. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and I'm asking you to help me, help you, help others, so we can all be involved in the business of unindoctrinate yourself.